Good morning. It is 10:30 a.m. Friday the 25th of April, and I just thought it was good time to do this. Um there's a lot of bumbles going on back there. Very loud. Hopefully the audio comes in okay. I could have brought my microphone out, but yeah. Yeah, I had a realization while on YouTube, watching people get into their lives, even in tutorials, and yeah, it was just a beautiful recognition that people create content to make mirrors of themselves. Um, it's the way to combat um, internalizing your thoughts where they have no action. It's a way to externalize and cause reaction. And I think that's beautiful. I've not been, I'm a pretty private person. I'll like post funny memes of myself, but never give insight into my life. And I think a part of that was stemming from kind of this deep shame that I had nothing to say. And even right now, I feel a little bit like that. Like, I feel like I'm just kind of rambling. But I think everything needs a catalyst, and the catalyst isn't always going to be attractive. It's going to be awkward, it's going to be scary. And yeah, maybe this is a catalyst for something. I've, in recent years, feel like I've also kind of latched onto this idea that there are watchers over us, whether in a different dimension, tied to our spiritual selves. And sometimes I've in the past not wanted to show progress to others because I was afraid that the watchers would know that, you know, like you showed them too much and now you have this sort of curse upon you that curses your project from getting done. I know that's like kind of schizo sounding, but I do think there is something to be said about letting in on your secrets. I know, who is it? What's his name? Anyways, I have a copy. Just look at it. In Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he talks about, um, basically the concept of loose lips sinking ships. Something about communicating things that have not happened yet or are crucial towards enabling the execution of some great task. Um, and there's a couple stories in this book that kind of reflect that principle in action. I cannot, for the life of me, remember exactly what the stories were. It's been a long time since I read this, but the message kind of still stands that something about mentioning what you're going to do to other, or yeah, what you're planning on doing with others jinxes the progress. It's putting the cart before the horse, putting the horse before the cart. However that phrase goes, it's that principle of revealing too much without knowing yourself how it's going to go. That creates unneeded pressure. And so I think, long story short, coming back to my dilemma has always been about, you know, letting people in just for them to be, disappointed by the lack of progress that ends up getting made. Because I think I stall out a lot in that way, in terms of creating things, creating music, creating artwork. It's like I know sharing will incentivize people to keep the momentum going, and I would like that to be my case. Trust me, I really wish I was good with momentum and could channel that flow state. However, I think the reality of it is the projects that I want to show to people, I want them to be bigger than they are individually. And I think that um, kind of binds me up, you know, keeps me from making and pursuing that task. And I watched this really good YouTube channel, and the concept that this other creative person mentioned is being able to see your art as a mosaic. You're adding on this patchwork of artwork and your soul in these little moments, and then seeing the overall picture of what those moments meant to the story as a whole. And I think that's a really beautiful way of maybe letting off some pressure from the creative process, um, and just treating it as such. And I find myself, I've been doing, and I'm gonna jinx it, but let's just say I've had this kind of side project of drawings where I've been painting these characters who I believe exist all in the same world. And then looking back at old artwork through my graduate school portfolio of either architectural forms, geometries, concepts, and being like, when has this not informed my current artwork? Like, when does this creative process stop and others begin? And I've always really felt this way about art, that art in one medium requires the bouncing around to different mediums. And I think there's an innate sense of hyper curiosity at what these different mediums can do, and wanting to get like a flavor sample of everything. And I think what it comes down to is just a process of time being kind of the limiting factor. Like, I, in other ways in my life, have not prioritized getting around to tasks that need to be done in a timely manner, and therefore that adds a bit of stress on the creative process and kind of fragments and keeps things from really connecting together because I hadn't allowed myself the um the um what am I trying to say? The consistent flow of that process. Sometimes this is really frustrating for others. I can definitely tell you that. In grad school, I had two professors ask if I had ADHD, and maybe that has something to do with it, just bouncing around. But I think before I, self-diagnose, it's better to just admit, that the art process is different for everyone. There's no time unless you create the deadline for it to be done. And sometimes applied external pressure is a good thing to get things done. I think, as kind of a vocal note to myself, now that I'm thinking about this might be the opportunity to really dive into that sort of time management practice, morning awareness ritual, you know, externalizing the internal in every way possible. Like, it's no longer, I can no longer afford the time to be inauthentic. And that kind of carries through the process. Like, I can't keep lying to myself or lying to others about how this process works for me, and I can't, like, I have to be responsible knowing this. Like, I can't just be like, oh, I'm unfocused today. And like that, it's hard not to feel, you know, burdened by this sense of immediacy and wanting results now when so much of the journey gets kind of compromised and we're kind of not seeing it for the journey. But then there's that real external reality of the world moving and in motion and events happening, and I have to find a better way to really go about this process. Maybe not me personally, but like people in general, like human nature is required to, take this task and balance it. But yeah, I don't know. This this whole rant stems from me just watching this video of this lady on YouTube who does quilts, and she just had such a enthusiasm to her voice and enthusiasm to help each other, and I thought that was really beautiful, and a video where she gets to perform this way and talk in this educating manner. Like, it was a mirror to her soul, and I think that's beautiful that she's putting herself on the spot like that. And I know millions of people do that. And yeah, I guess I've not afforded myself the time to think, like, hey, maybe people are onto something. This is a form of like meditation practice in some way, where people find, you know, the things they need to say and then say it. And that tends to help the general population. I don't know. It was just really beautiful. And I hope to continue doing this. That is my conclusion. I hope to continue making videos, um, documenting the ups and downs, that sort of thing. But yeah, anyways, we're at 13 minutes, so I'm gonna end this. Peace.